Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to discuss all of the palettes in my collection that I have not yet touched in 2023. There's quite a few palettes. I wish I had used more of these. However, some of them are kind of seasonal palettes, or you know, it's palettes that I am not as keen on anymore. It's also some that are quite new in my collection. I'm also this year trying to reach for every single eyeshadow in my collection, which means that a lot of times I try to reach for a palette no pan left behind before I put it away. So I go for my palettes more like, you know, one by one, instead of reaching for a lot, you know, back and forth. But yeah, these are all the palettes I haven't reached for yet this year, and like I said, there's quite a few, so I'm going to jump straight into it. But before I do so, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So these are going to be in brand order. So yeah, I'm just going to go for the top of my spreadsheet down, so kind of like brand order. And the first palette that I have is from Anastasia. I do have two Anastasia palettes, and the first one is the Jackie Aina palette. I have mentioned before that this is a palette that I like a lot of this palette. The quality in here is perfection, and it's a lot of shades that I really like. I really love this kind of like this 6 right here. I also love these 2 right here, but like these 5 specifically, like Supreme Pinky Big Wig, Wigglies and Shook and Turn, are just not my favorite colors. And also this palette is very autumnal to me. I don't really see this as like a spring or winter palette. It's more of like a late summer kind of autumn palette. Maybe these here would transition between more like, you know, autumn to winter, but not like winter to spring, if that makes sense. So this is not a palette that I've been wanting to reach for yet, but I'm for sure we'll be reaching for this one when we get into like the cooler months. The second palette that I haven't reached for yet is one that is relatively new. There will be a couple palettes here that I got from my friend Martina maybe like a month and a half ago. And I'm trying to slowly work my way through them and complete like no pan left behind on them, but these are the ones that I haven't gotten to yet. And the first one is the Kali Bible palette. I really like this color story. I wasn't really that interested in it when I first saw this palette, but the more I looked at it, the more I really fell in love with this color story, and I feel like this is kind of more me now compared to when it came out. So I'm really excited to play around with this one when I get around to it, but so far I haven't really given me a chance to reach for this one yet, but I'm for sure will soon. It is more of a winter tone palette again though, so I don't know if I will reach for, I mean, to be fair, there is a couple of shades in here that I can reach for in summer, so maybe I'll reach for like the bottom row now and then reach for the top row when we get to winter. But I really am excited to play around with this one because I am very keen on this palette now compared to when it first came out. Moving on, we have a couple Colourpop palettes. I only have 2 of these as well. The first one is my Gone Coconut palette. This is a neutral palette. I think all of you have seen this one before. I just haven't been able, I mean, I haven't really been keen to reach for this one. Again, it's more of a kind of cool tone leaning, or like I guess more neutral to cool tone leaning. It's quite a unique tone, but I really do love this palette. I just haven't really thought of reaching for this one. It might be nice, you know, in summer, to be fair, to do some like smoky brown looks, but we'll see when I get around to using this one. But it's this one that I have forgotten a little bit about and not been able to reach for yet. And then the second one is definitely a summer palette, so I've been saving this one for the warmer months, and that is my Aha Honey palette. This one looks slightly different. I have changed out these 2 shadows. Actually no, sorry, I used to change out Sunburst. I used to have a different shadow in Palooza, but I recently put Palooza back and now I switched out Sunburst, but I put in like a matte yellow there instead. So yeah, mostly this is the same as before, but I am excited to reach for this one now in the warmer months. Yellows are definitely something that I reach for in summer, so you know, we'll see how it goes with this one, but I think I want to wait for this one until I get a little bit more of a tan. But to be fair, these kind of sunshine yellows are definitely something that I'm drawn to at the moment, so maybe I'll reach for this one soon. We'll see. I think I can definitely get quite a few looks out of this one, so I might be able to reach for it on more occasions, obviously. So moving on to the next category, we probably have my biggest category, but it's also because I've gotten a lot of new palettes from this brand, so I have quite a few to share with you from this brand. The first palette is the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. So Natasha Denona is the brand that I have the most unused palettes from so far this year, and the Metropolis palette I haven't reached for yet because again it is more of a fall palette to me. I do think I can reach for this one again in summer. Like a lot of this kind of these areas here, especially like these warm tones and then the pop of blue, really reminds me of summer, so maybe I should start reaching for like this half of the palette now in summer and then more of this here in autumn. But I mean, there is a lot of shadows in here, and I think I'll definitely roll this into my No Pan Left Behind sometimes late summer, early autumn. And I do love this palette. The quality is really, really nice, but I just haven't gone around to reaching for it yet, mainly because of the color story, because for me that is more summer, autumn. And we have the same thing going for the Sunrise palette from Natasha Denona. This one again is more of a summer palette. It can create some really nice sunset looks. I do like this color story a ton. It's not my favorite formula from Natasha Denona, but the color story is really, really beautiful. But it's again more of a warm tone kind of sunset palette, or sunrise rather. So it's one that I am more drawn to again in summer, and I haven't really gotten around to using it yet. It only really heated up in the UK about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. We are currently on the 17th of June when I'm filming this. I'm pre-filming it a little bit, so it hasn't really been warm for more than like 2 weeks. So I'm finally getting into the mood of using all these summer palettes, but before that I really wasn't in the mood for that. So that is why I have so many summery palettes not yet reached for. Moving on with another midi palette. This is actually the last palette that I have that I had prior to like recently, and that is the Natasha Denona bronze palette. It is one of my most recent Natasha Denona palettes, so I got this last year for my birthday in November, so I haven't even had this a year yet, and I love this palette. I can't wait to reach for this one now in summer. I think I'm going to create a lot of looks out of this one. I used this when I first got it, and I loved every single look that I got out of it, and I just have been waiting for summer so I can reach for this one. Maybe I'll do a look with this one tonight actually. So maybe once this goes live I might actually have reached for this one, because we're going for dinner tonight. We're actually going in like 3.5 hours. So I'm gonna finish filming this, I'm gonna take off my makeup and redo it, because although I love this look, I think it's beautiful. I did play around with quite a few smoky look eyeshadows, and I did a cut crease and everything. I think it's absolutely stunning, but my base, like this foundation that I'm using now, just breaks apart, and I feel like I want to go for something really summery and beautiful today for our dinner. So I might use this one today because I love this palette a lot. I just again haven't really reached for it yet because I've been waiting to reach for this one during summer. Next up we have a really new palette. Again, I got this in the round of new palettes like about a month or month and a half ago, and that is the Natasha Denona Biba palette. This one here, I am so excited to have in my collection. I just haven't been getting around to using this one yet because I'm panning so many eyeshadows. If I wasn't panning eyeshadows, I would have reached for a lot of these palettes already, especially my new ones, but I need to like find a balance of like using the rest of my collection and what I want and what I'm panning. But this is a palette I'm really excited about, and it's a good staple palette to have. I can't wait to play around with this one. I am so grateful to have it in my collection, especially because I got it very affordable from my friend Martina. But so far I haven't reached for this one. However, I'm sure I will do so very soon. The last big Natasha Denona palette we have is the Sendo palette. Again, another one that I got from Martina or bought off her. This one looks like this. Again, it is more of a, I guess I could have done some spring looks with this corner here, like a pastel kind of bluey sage green look, and then these colors here lean very summery, but again it is more of a summer palette. So I'm sure I'll be able to reach for this one soon. It's more of a spring to summer, so this is more kind of an early summer palette to me. So again, maybe I'll make a mental note to using this one in the next couple of weeks, because I do think it's stunning, and I'm excited to try this palette because it wasn't really my top priority to get for Natasha Denona, but since I got this from my friend very affordably again, I was happy to pick it up. But again, I'm just excited to see how the color story works, because I haven't really done much research on this palette yet, so we'll see how I go. But that is the Sendo palette. Then lastly for Natasha Denona we have two mini palettes, and these are here. Again, I got these one from Martina, so bit of a broken record, but I haven't had these in my collections that long. This palette here is one that I definitely want to make a look with very soon. I keep thinking about this palette because I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think it is already shopped it, create a look using this palette, and I have wanted to do the same look ever since. I think it's just beautiful tones. This was a palette that I wanted really bad before getting it, so I'm definitely going to make a look with this one soon. But again, I'm just panning too many eyeshadows that it's hard to reach for other things that I'm not having in projects, but that is the next one. And then the other mini palette that we have is the mini Biba palette. Again, it's more of a kind of summery peachy tone palette, so again I think it's perfect for the time of year we're in. So again, hopefully I can create a look with this one soon. The next two palettes we have are again two that I got from Martina, so I haven't had these in my collection very long, and they're both from Pat McGrath. I did buy 3 palettes of her, but I have reached for one of them, no pan left behind, but the other 2 I'm yet to reach for. The first one is one that I haven't reached for because it's not very summery, and that is the Subliminal palette, which is the Mothership number 1. So this is what it looks like here. Again, it's more of a winter palette, so I honestly don't think I'm going to reach for this one until we get into the cooler months, because it's not really a color story that I'm interested in at the moment. However, the second one I do think I can definitely make work for the season. This is the Mothership number 8, and this is the Divine Rose 2, which looks like this. This is definitely more of a colorful story. I think this is one of her more like colorful palettes, like all throughout, even though there is some neutrals in here too. I feel like there is a lot of kind of pops, or like even the more neutral tones are quite colorful leaning, like this is quite peach. This here is obviously quite vibrant pink, and then we have this pink to green multichrome, a really bright yellow gold, and so on. So this is one that I think I should be able to reach for now, because it's more of a color story that I'm drawn to, but again I haven't gone around to it yet. So I haven't really been keeping count, but I think this is palette number 15, and we have a couple more to go, and this one here is my Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. So moving on to the next brand. This is a palette that everyone raves about, and I do like this palette, but honestly, like, it is probably one that I don't know, I do look at this one, I think it's absolutely stunning, but I just forget to reach for it, and it's one that I'm just like, I never really drawn to reach for, because it's just, I don't know what it's about it, but so many people love this palette, and I do too. I think the formula in here is beautiful, the shimmers are stunning, but yeah, it's just something about this palette that I'm not super drawn to. Otherwise, I mean, it's a perfect palette for like spring and summer, but I haven't gone around to it yet, and we are in summer, so it's been plenty of opportunity to reach for this palette, but I just haven't yet, and I don't really know why. Then the next palette is this one here, which is the Gold Obsessions, which is one of the 9 pans. I actually love this color story a lot. I think it's beautiful. I think this would be a perfect palette to pan for me, but it's just a small palette that gets lost in my collection. I have these colors over and over again in my collection. I mean, I love these colors, but I have them all over. So it's not really a palette that I reach for this specific color story. But I do need to reach for this one more. I love it. I really do love it. And every time I open it up, it just makes me so happy. I just love these golds and like mauve pinks together. These are more kind of like the warmer tone pinks, which I think works really well for me, or like warmer tone mauves. So yeah, I do love this palette, but I haven't reached for it yet this year. The next palette is actually one that I haven't reached for at all since I got it. This is my Charlotte Tilbury Exaggerize Bigger Brighter Eyes filter. I got this one in my advent calendar form called Beauty. It's a nice quad, but I haven't reached for it yet. I'm contemplating whether to declare this one or not, but I haven't quite decided yet, so we'll see how I do with this one. It's still new, so I still have some time to make up my mind about it. I might try to sell it, I might try to give it to a friend. We'll see what I do, but for now I'm keeping it in my collection. The Lone Wilderness palette from Beauty Bay. This is the only Beauty Bay palette I haven't used this year. It looks like this. It's a palette that it's very hyped up, and I do like it. The quality is there. The shimmers are absolutely stunning. I grew a little bit tired of this one also because I was padding this one in my Perfect Level Up as my level 5 palette, so I hit 5 pans in here. So it is looking quite well loved, and it is nice. I'm also not as into colorful eyeshadows as I used to be, not this year at least. I mean, I still like doing them for YouTube and like on the weekend just to like play with the colors, but like every day I just want quite a simple look nowadays, which obviously isn't great for my panning, but you know, that's a different story completely. But with this palette, it means that I haven't really been drawn to this one yet. It's also more for me like a summer and autumn palette, if anything. So yeah, I don't know, I will definitely reach for it this year, but so far I haven't really been feeling this one. Next up we have my Oden's Eye Elva palette. This is again the only Oden's Eye palette that I have. I have reached for the Red Dragon palette a little bit, not every shade yet, but I have reached for a few of them. And yeah, this one is a beautiful palette, but I just haven't, again, feeling these colors. It is a beautiful spring tone palette, so I should have been reaching for it then. So I will try to reach for this one more maybe in winter. I don't know. Maybe it could be nice for summer if you want to do more kind of slightly more cool tone looks for summer. We'll see, but I do definitely want to reach for this one. But I just forgotten about it, let's be honest. So we have 5 more palettes to go, so we're getting towards the end. But the next one I have is my California Coast palette from Sydney Grace. This one looks like this. It's quite similar actually to the Golden Coconuts palette, not in tone. This one is definitely more kind of pink leaning, has like more rose gold, more coppers, and like a slightly more toned undertone to all of these shadows. But I haven't reached for this one in a similar way because it's more of a neutral color story. This one is also quite a smoky one. I think this is more of a wintry palette, although it says, I mean, the palette is California Coast. So, you know, you would kind of think maybe that it's more of a summer palette. When I look at this one, I see more of a winter palette. But maybe I'll give it a go to make more of a kind of, you know, coppery, kind of rose goldy summer look. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, I just haven't been feeling this palette yet this year. I also got that one free with purchase, which might mean that I didn't reach for it as much because I didn't pay for it. The next one is the Mountain Shell palette from Sydney Grace. I love this palette. I think it's absolutely stunning, but this one is more autumnal to me, so I haven't reached for it because of that. I'm kind of saving this one for kind of like late summer, autumn. Another palette that I got from my friend Martina, actually the remaining 3 of palettes that I got from her, but this one here is one that I got last year, so it's not as new as the other ones that I mentioned, but this one looks like this. This is actually the Luna Beauty Eternal Eclipse palette. This is definitely more of a winter tone palette, but I just didn't reach for this one in the beginning of the year. I will try to do so in winter though. I don't think I'm going to reach for this one before winter, if I'm being honest, because I don't see this as being anything like summery. I am really intrigued about this palette because I have swatched out the mattes. I think I worn like 1 or 2 of these mattes last year. I got this like at the very tail end of last year. But the mattes feel absolutely stunning, and there are some really beautiful shimmers in here, but I don't really reach for these really dark shades that often. Like if I took out the bottom row, I feel like that the palette would suit me much better, but the darker row is in here and the blues and stuff, so it's not my favorite palette, but I'm really excited to play around with this formula, and it is stunning. It's very different also from everything else I have in my collection, so I do want to hold on to it for now until I get to know it a little bit better, but so far I haven't reached for this one this year. Then the last 2 palettes I have to share with you are both small palettes. The first one is one that I was really close to rolling into a project recently, but I opted for a different palette instead, and that is the Paris Edit from Viseart. I never have tried it. Like, I never tried Viseart before, and I always wanted to, and this is a palette that I'm really intrigued to play around with. I think this is one that I'm going to play around with very soon, because I am intrigued by this palette a lot. I feel like there's some really beautiful shimmers in here, and I want to know what the fuss is with both the mattes and the shimmers. So this is definitely a palette I'm going to reach for soon. I am intrigued by it. It's also so small and cute. I mean, that is 12 shades in the palm of my hand. Like, that is insane. This would be perfect for traveling because it's such a neat palette. I mean, I can put this in my like bag, like my small bag, if I want to like get ready on the go, because it is tiny. And yeah, I really love this palette from like just watching it and stuff, but I need to play around with it on my eyes. Then the last one is a very kind of fancy quad. It's not really one that you can reach for a full look, but I'm excited to play around with this too, like a topper kind of shadow, or like in combination with other mattes, and that is the Rowan Quad in 75 degrees. So this one is like 4 kind of like cream eyeshadows. I've been dying. I mean, this is like a beautiful eyeshadow quad. Rowan is very hyped up. A lot of people rave about this one, and the, what's the other one called? I lost the name of the other one, but it's like another one that's slightly more cool toned than this, and both of those are being very raved about, and I always wanted to try both of them. And I got this one again about a month and a half ago, but I haven't got around to trying this one yet. I think I want to try these as like a maybe one and done eyeshadow, but also paired with other things. So at some point I will get around to playing with this one, but as you can see, I do have quite a lot of eyeshadows to go through and that I want to use, so we'll see when I do so. But those are actually all of the palettes that I haven't reached for at all this year. Obviously there are a handful of palettes as well that I have reached for a couple of shades in, but not all of them. But the remaining of my palettes are actually majority used. Like I said, I go through my palettes and try to almost reach no pan left behind, and then if I roll them into a project, I try to reach for the remaining shades in the palette as well. But you know, obviously that doesn't happen with every palette. But with the majority of the other palettes that I have in my collection, I have reached for most of them no pan left behind style. But In the studio here today we have 24 palettes, so again there is quite a few things, and we are not quite halfway through the year yet, but we're nearing there, so I need to step up my usage game on these palettes, and I'm definitely going to try to reach for some of these soon. I kind of wanted to do this palette just to share with you obviously what I haven't reached for yet this year, but also to remind myself just what I have left to reach for in my collection. But that is it for today, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know if there's a specific palette in your collection that you haven't reached for yet this year, but you do want to focus on in the next couple of weeks or months. And otherwise, I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.